Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm dear darling. I shall see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhallow today, where we'll be continuing talks, I suppose, about the holiday I went on. I will say, just like a quick thing, I suppose, to start off this episode, you know, in lieu, I suppose, of D&D talk. Because if you don't know, I think I mentioned that I cancelled the 2 sessions this week because I was just like, I don't really have enough time to prepare for it. But that does remind me, there was something I was meant to bring up with one of the groups as a potential idea. Whether it's one that they want or not, I don't know. But good evening, everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow, it's 11:02 p.m. on Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'll talk about it more afterwards if it's being discussed. But yeah, I finished well, actually yesterday, or kind of yesterday at like past midnight, but also wait, what day is it today? Today's Tuesday, but also kind of like today, my time. The finale of Game Changer was released. It was Ratfish Part 2. You might be like, what do you think of it as a whole? I thought it was a really cool concept. I think. And I somewhat agree with general consensus. I feel like a lot of a general consensus is way too harsh, to be perfectly honest. I still think it's a good episode and series, but I do agree to the fact that the build up and the setup felt really cool. I love part 1, but part 2's payoff, and I went, okay. And you may be like, why necessarily? My favourites were not the ones which ended up being chosen. The Ratfish, I suppose, wrinkle was okay, and I didn't really have much of a connection to it, I suppose. It was me trying to not be very spoilery. And it felt like a very strange way to determine the winner, in my opinion, compared to what I thought the tie break sort of thing situation would be guessing the Ratfish, I suppose. But nonetheless, I thought it was still very entertaining. I thought it was full of very funny moments, but yeah, it's not my favourite episode of the season. My favourite is still Bingo, followed by, I'm not sure what it'd be followed by. Deja Vu is really good, but is that my second favourite? I need to look at a list of the season, because also, oh no, it's definitely the press the buzzer or whatever it's called, beat the buzzer. That's definitely my second favourite. That's so good. But yeah, I don't know, Game Changer, as per usual, knocks it out of the park. I absolutely love the concept though of the finale of the sort of cat fit, and it's called the circle, isn't it? Essentially, but put into a sort of comedy-esque show. Anyway, so Greece, holiday Greece. What do we do afterwards? I've got my photo album ready. So what did I talk about? I talked about Ketchup the squirrel. Very cute, little squirrely thing. And then yes, that's right, we went to a park. I can't remember what park this is. In my mind it was called the Royal Park or something of Athens, but I don't think that makes sense because I don't, did Greece have royals at any point? Anyway, Athens Park. What is it called? National Garden? Mount Lycabettus. It was not that. It was not Philippus Hill. It was National Garden, that was it. Not Royal Garden. And we had a walk around. It's a nice garden. It's actually a lot smaller than I expected it to be, which was the strange part, because we saw the maps and we were like, whoa, this place is like huge. And then we walked okay, let's start heading to this direction. We walked for less than 2 minutes and we saw the map again and we were like, whoa, we actually we made it. I was like, oh, okay, the garden's actually way smaller than I thought it was going to be. But I thought it was pretty nice. We had this nice building. That's actually quite a nice photo of a garden area, I suppose, taken by my friend. And there are some pergolas, which are nice to sit down on. That's just more of a joke thing. There was this tunnel of pergolas, and I can't remember what exactly went about, but I described it as, I was like, oh, what nice set of pergolas or something. And then my friend was like, what are you talking about? This is not a pergola. And then it was basically the back and forth. He was like, it's a gazebo, and I was like, it's not a gazebo, this is clearly a pergola. And he was like, what was the definition? I was like, okay, I don't know the exact definitions of gazebo and pergola, but in my mind gazebo is a shed, like a roofed outside enclosure, while pergola is not necessarily roofed. The roofing parts is just more structural beams, and it's often intertwined with vines and plants. It's more of a garden feature, while gazebo is more of a external structure. And he was like, it's not a pergola. And it was basically just going back and forth. And when it turns out later, You know, whether he was telling the truth or not, who knows, but no, I'm joking. But he thought I was saying pagoda this entire time instead of pergola, which I can understand. These sound somewhat similar. Pagoda, if you don't know, is basically like an East Asian building, like tower, essentially. And then, I'm pretty sure at this point he was like kind of joking around, to be perfectly honest. But then he was just like, oh no, it's actually closer to a pagoda than a pergola. And I was like, what are you talking about? This looks nothing like a pagoda. I can't even remember like what the joke was anymore, but this entire joke was, obviously, from my perspective, I have the right definitions of gazebo being like this. You know, let's look up the actual definitions. Gazebo: a small building, especially one in a garden house, that gives a view of a surrounding area. Yeah, so it's like a open external hut. That's basically the way to put it. Then pergola is a art structure in a garden park consisting of a framework for climbing or trading plants. Yeah, so it's like, it's not like an actual full-on structure, but it's like a framework. So it's got like these what are they called? I call them, like, they've got like these rafters, and they often have like plants around them. And then like define pagoda. I also, for some reason, every time I try and type define, I always type Daphne. I have no idea why, but that's just like how my muscle memory's learnt it. Pagoda in Indian East Asia, a Hindu or Buddhist temple, typically in the form of a many-tiered tower. I'm like, you know, he was obviously like joking at this point. Like after the hearing, he's that kind of, you know, person, and you might be like rude, and I'm like, no, hold on. Like he's kind of like he doesn't mind like stirring a pot a little bit for like a joke, etc. And we know that, like, obviously we're friends, you know, so it's, you know, we understand where the boundaries lie and that sort of thing. So when I tell this story, I suppose I very much don't want you to be like, wow, your friend sounds like a real jerk. He's not a jerk, you know. Don't you know, you don't have a full story of like who he is as a person. So it's very much let's not get too parasocial within this, despite the fact I suppose I am telling you by definition what's going to be a parasocial story, isn't it? But then it was just like this entire conversation of like, every time we saw a hut now, he was like, oh dear darling, what's that? It's a pagoda, isn't it? And I was like, obviously it's not a pagoda. But then, you know, we started like, that bit got old, so I was like, obviously, how do we like take us to the next level? Is now I need to now be saying the stupid stuff. Now I need to point out things which are clearly not like even related to structures and be like, oh, that's a pagoda, isn't it? I think I like pointed at a bridge. It was like, oh, look, a pagoda or something. I don't remember it exactly. Anyway, that's somehow the way the jokes involve. You know how like inside jokes work with friends. Well, you might say no, in which case I apologize, I guess. They're kind of like difficult to explain, but it's just like jokes stupid. They have like no premise or whatever, but they're just funny because of the context of a story behind them. And you can't even tell the story. Like, here I am trying to tell the story, and I'm like, there's no substance behind it. It was just like amusing moment. Well, I was saying pergola this entire time, and he thought I was saying pagoda, or maybe he thought I meant pagoda or something, and he just got like really confused by that. Anyway, TLDR, if you don't know, gazebo, pagoda, like structurally actually reasonably similar, but you know, pagoda doesn't have that roofing element. It's just more like a framework, and pagodas are just straight up completely different things, but they are, I guess, buildings or structures at the end of the day. Anyway, we had more of a walk around the National Garden. We went to like a pond area where there were like some ducks or something, and like fish, and you know, that was kind of cool. And then there was like a zoo where there were like a load of parakeets and goats, and it was just like, this is really random, also stinks. Of course, you know about the classic stench which animals have, or like I suppose farms have. That's probably a better way to put it. No idea what on earth that like zoo was about. Was it a petting zoo? No, it was completely enclosed off. You couldn't even see most of the animals particularly well, because like the netting, I suppose, not the netting, but the fencing they have to use had to be like these really tiny holes in them. So I was just like, okay. We saw some goats. The goats were kind of cool, to be honest. I don't know what goats they were. If you had to make me guess, I would guess like ibex goats or something, because like that's the only goat I know which has the same sort of horns, which sort of like curl around and backwards, but I don't know if that's really true. Maybe I could just make up a goat. Maybe they're Aegean goats or something. But they were pretty cool. There was like this massive geese and swan. There was also like a lake full of just turtles. And you might be like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. It was actually not very cool. A lake is a misnomer. It was more like, it was a tiny pond. Probably not more than like 5 meters in radius or something, just chock full of, like, I would guess there are almost 100 turtles just in that pond. And I was just like, this is like animal cruelty or something. Like, I don't know what's up with that, to be perfectly honest. I don't know if it's like they actually can travel around, or they just like really love a spot or something. I didn't see like any obvious pathways or something. But I'm gonna give him a benefit of doubt, but maybe. But I was just like, this is definitely way too many turtles in this one spot. How does this even work? But I've genuinely got no clue. Who am I to make these snap decisions, or the snap judgments, I suppose, without like actually knowing any of the context behind it, and just solely relying off what I perceived, rather than what I can also understand at the same time. But I was just like, this is weird. Anyway, National Garden. Then we went to the cafe. We had some drinks. I had a lot of slushies on this holiday, which is strange because I don't normally drink like. I actually think that, like, okay, hold on, it's like a whole other conversation about slushies. Let's save it for the next time. But the TLDR is basically, like, I don't think I like slushies. But then, like, on this Greece holiday, I had, like, several slushies. Pretty good. But I feel like the whole reason I know what a pergola even is because of Animal Crossing. You know, they're two separate items, gazebo and pergola, in Animal Crossing, which I always, you know, I not interchangeably use, but I use in different situations in Happy in Paradise. And of course the gazebo is like this domed roof structure, while the pergola is like this framework for vines to grow around, etc, etc, etc. So yeah, I mean, like, I don't really know why these are like the only like common outdoor structures, why these specific ones need, you know, let's look at the etymology. Gazebo, it's a gazebo, quote it the movie. Latin, ebo, gaze. Humorously from gaze, ebo, future tenses, so it's to gaze. Wait, hold on, like, what's gaze in the future tense? I will gaze? I mean, that's like near future or something, isn't it? I forget how tenses work. Did we find whoever our crafter was? I have a strong feeling we didn't. I don't even know if we did the Nugmal thingamajiggies, but gazebo, I didn't know it'd be so literally from gaze, but oh well. Define pergola. Where's this from? I'm gonna guess Spanish origins. Italian. No. Yes, Italian. Pergere is to come or go forward, to pergola, which is a projecting roof, to pergola. Okay, so it's a projecting roof. I mean, technically Latin origins, I suppose, and Italian, Spanish, you know, similar sort of vibes, I say as a non-linguist, and not really sure if they actually have similar vibes. Pagoda, I must assume, is a Japanese word or something, which I guess makes it a Chinese word or something. It's Persian, oh. But Kada, a temple of idols, to pagode in Portuguese, and prakrit, bagodi, divine. Oh, these are two different possibilities. I don't know what prakrit even is. Is this like an Indian dialect? Define prakrit.
Prakrit.
Oh, sorry, prakrit. An ancient or medieval vernacular dialects of Sanskrit, derived from Sanskrit of Central India. Okay, fair enough. Genuinely have no idea. I honestly don't know much about Indian history or culture, to be perfectly honest, or any South Asian, I suppose, Indian, or not, culture or history. So, you know, learn a little every single day. Anyway, pagodas, very, you know, sound similar. Definitely not the same word. I mean, they very much refer to very different concepts and aspects. I would say pagoda. Which of these do I prefer? Like the aesthetic look of? I'm gonna be honest. Might be a pagoda. Like I can appreciate the majesty, I suppose. Excuse me, of a pagoda. In fact, I've seen a lot of pagodas in my life. Unsurprisingly, I've been to China, Japan, and Korea. You know, I am Chinese. Like a reasonably common. Not like reason. It's not like you walk about the place and be like, oh, a pagoda. But there's like a lot of famous ones, and when you do sightseeing, of course, you see them. But I can appreciate the majesty of them. But living in them is not like would be all that interesting, I suppose. But I could see myself in the future, like having like a really fancy garden or something with a pergola. Even better if it's like a tunnel of pergolas. To be perfectly honest, because that's what was in the National Garden. It was like this really like. I'm not going to say it was a gorgeous, but it was a really nice looking sort of like tunnel or pagoda. It's like, you might even be able to see, hold on, Athens National Garden. There's probably a picture of it. It's like one of the most, oh yeah, there we go. Literally TripAdvisor, one of the main images. It's like one of the main things you see. What else was in the National Garden? You saw these tall trees. I don't know what trees these were. These are some very nice pictures. We did see basically all of these. Actually, I'm not sure if we saw... No, we did see this thing. There was no trees. Again, it's very small. If you go to Athens, you can just like literally walk around all of it in like less than an hour, I would say. Is it like the best like National Garden I've seen? No, I don't think so. But I think it was nice. It's a nice change of pace in Athens as well. So yeah, I don't know. Pagodas, gazebos. I don't know if there's anything else in that same sort of category. LinkedIn, gazebo versus pagoda. What's the difference? Sorry, I'm just looking at like images now. I don't know because gazebos and pagodas got so confused. That is a crazy gazebo right here. They've got like a straight up like brick oven in there to cook pizzas. But like the whole reason I know the word gazebo in the first place is in primary school. I remember our primary school like evolved a lot over the years, but one thing I do remember is like we had this playground and we had like this really old climbing frame, and basically they did up a lot of things like to try and make things more interesting, I suppose, over the years. One of the things I remember they did is not only did they like move that climbing frame to a different area and built a new climbing frame and a new like sort of like low ropes sort of activity thing for recreation for the kids, and obviously it was a lot of fun, but they also built just like a gazebo randomly. Like, the design of a playground, I don't know how to describe it. Okay, so here's a school. You go outwards and you have, like, the first area of a playground. I mean, you go to, the second half of a playground, which is basically the designated, this is, if you want to play football, this is where you go. Like, all the boys would go there and, like, gather and play football. And then to the left, there was, like, the younger kids' playground to separate them, I suppose, from the dangerous, like, flying footballs everywhere. I would say very much, if you ever went to the football pitch, you would like, 90% chance be hit by random football. Because they were just like all the classes were playing their own game of football, like woven on top of each other. And it was just like, how does it work? I don't know. I never played football. Sometimes I watched. But yeah, then like at the end of the playground there was like a ramp upwards to this large grassy area of the field, which is basically where we had like our gym class or PE, using a British term. But to the right of that ramp, they randomly just built a gazebo. I don't know why. I guess they kind of wanted like a sort of like outdoor area for the kids to like sit in or something, especially on summer days. The problem was they built it at the end of where people played football. So if you were a type of person like me who wanted to sit down like in a nice gazebo, I suppose, during lunchtime and chat with friends, you had to cross the football pitch, which is like a nuisance, and like most of the time you go, I can't be bothered to do that, so you don't. So instead you just sit at like the close side near the school, and you just sit like on the benches, or you sit on the wall there. They should have built that gazebo in the quad area of that school, like near the school building itself, so it'd be so much easier, I suppose, to get to. I guess they probably just didn't have space for it, which is fair enough. But it's like, who's crossing this entire football pitch to go to this gazebo? Question. The response is me. I did that a few times, but still. Oh yeah, I need to make like a thumbnail. I genuinely just forgot. Oh wow, we're like running out of space for temp videos of this sort of thing. You know what I'll do? Paradise Killer. I'm gonna delete this super. No, I will delete. Yeah, I'll delete this super large. Why do I delete that? Because I need to record some Talos Principle. Yes, I'll delete the super large Paradise Killer video. I basically had to chop a video up into two because the Paradise Killer video was too long. But you'll see that next week, I think. It's not going to be this week's video. Yeah, I forgot I talked about Chance of Sonata last time. I guess let's use a colour. Like, I've really got to finish this thumbnail art at some point, especially before July. That's my deadline I'm setting for myself, before July, but let's see if I even stick to it. Pergola? Pagoda. Let's score the whole thing of you say pagoda, I say pagoda. I don't know if I can draw a particularly good pergola. There you go. Yeah. So I had this gazebo, and it was just like on the other side of this like very, not dangerous. It's not like you'll die, I suppose, if you get hit by football. But it's kind of like annoying, to be perfectly honest. To just like walk across and be like smacked in the face with like a football. So obviously I don't want that to happen. So like, what's the point of me to go into that gazebo? But I still did it a few times. Really what you do is you just sort of like walk around behind the climbing frame, even if it's not your class's turn to go to a climbing frame, and just walk to a gazebo. They also put the picnic benches over there. It's sort of just like, I don't know, they needed like a more sensible place to put those things. Anyway, I don't know what the school looks like now. So if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope to see each other again, but for now it's our farewell. So until next time, bye bye for now. I really gotta get another SSD, you know? Just for videos.